Joining me this morning, Boyd Matheson, a Republican strategist, former chief of staff to Senator Mike Less, and host of Inside Sources on KSL. Good to have you with us. I talk about the political finger pointing because you hear Buttigieg critical of former President Trump for going, and many would say, hey, Buttigieg, we'd like to see you in East Palestine, Ohio right now addressing this. Is it a good move for former President Trump to go? Why go now?
Yeah, I don't know if the timing is the right thing to do, and you nailed it, Marni. It's about the political finger pointing and placing blame. There's a whole lot of shrugging going on, and not a whole lot of shoulders squaring, either from the former president, from Pete Buttigieg, or from President Biden. And so the thing I think we have to be careful of is whenever we weaponize tragedy, that's just not the right way to go. It's got to be about the right policies. It's not about what happened 10 years ago or what happened in the previous administration. The only thing that matters to the people are what are you doing for us today, and how are we going to make sure we can clean this up, that our water and air is safe, that our kids can be okay playing outside, and then how do we prevent this from happening again in the future? The wrong thing to do is to go in with a grievance attitude. I think that's the big risk for the former president, is if he goes in and makes it about him and about a grievance mentality, that doesn't help anyone, including his prospects for election in the next campaign. And so I think we have to have a different kind of conversation. It's time to get past the fake fights and the false choices and have a different kind of conversation, especially when it comes to this kind of tragedy.
Right. Some may like to see him maybe put everybody up in a hotel while they're dealing with this, and they're concerned about the safety of the air and the water. I mean, won't former President Trump have to answer for repealing some of the things that he did when it came to rail companies and some of the safety regulations? If you go there, you're going to get asked that question.
He'll definitely get asked that question, and I'm sure he'll have an answer for that, which will be almost similar to what Secretary Buttigieg said. It will be very sweeping generalities. We know some of the things that Secretary Buttigieg has said about the previous administration really wouldn't have prevented this disaster from happening. And so is there a conversation to be had about regulation? Of course there is. That's an important thing to be looking at. But I think the former president has to be able to pivot to something, and I'm not quite sure what that is in terms of, what he did during his administration. More importantly, what would he do today, and how does he help the people of the city move forward?
On the flip side, you've got President Biden in Poland and Ukraine. Some would argue that's a major issue. He needs to be there, right? We're at the cusp of a potential nuclear threat with Russia and maybe even China. But this train derailment has been going on for weeks. There have been plenty of opportunities for the Biden administration, for Buttigieg and others to get there and witness that. NewsNation was there at the very beginning, and there were no other networks there. So why now are people paying attention to this so many weeks into this?
Yeah, that's one of the real head scratchers to me is why Secretary Buttigieg or President Biden didn't get there quickly. It's one of the things you can criticize about this administration. They are very slow to respond to situations on the ground. They seem to have a very slow uptake of being able to observe, orient, decide, and then act. And that's been the real weakness of the administration. And this is just one more indication of what's going on inside the White House, who's trying to protect who from what, who's controlling the information flow and the gatekeeping, because this was seriously slow in terms of the response, both from President Biden and from Secretary Buttigieg.
As I said earlier, it is our job to be skeptical, especially when you see the Ohio governor toasting the water with the EPA administrator. It's your job as a strategist to understand what that moment was about and what they were trying to accomplish. Do you think that water toast sent the right message to people living in that community who don't want to drink the water and who have concerns about their health?
Yeah, I think I'm sure it was in an interesting room when they decided, hey, let's do this as part of our visit today. I don't think it really moved the needle in terms of people's confidence in it. The thing that's going to change their confidence is as infrastructure gets put back in place, as they can really test and see things moving forward. The communication strategy always has to be equal to the policy strategy. I don't think the water toast quite passed that test.
Finally, you said people want action and they want it now to address some of their concerns. What is the one thing you'd like to see the former president do today as he meets with people in East Palestine?
I think for the former president, I think he's got to have something that's forward moving, that says, look, this is what we would do. This is what we need to have happen in terms of whether it's shelter, whether it's water, whether it's infrastructure, whether it's an investment from the federal government. To me, it all has to be forward moving. Anything that is backward facing, pointing fingers and placing blame just isn't going to cut it, and it's going to fall very flat. So I think it's a really high bar for the former president, because I'm not sure how he's able to pivot that into something where the people can say, okay, he's fighting for us, he's looking out for us. This is not just a photo op and an opportunity to criticize the current administration.
Yeah, I wish we could put politics aside right now. When you look at that plume of smoke in the air, this is about health, this is about safety and livelihood for the people of East Palestine. Politics always gets in the way, though. Boyd, good to see you. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Marni.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.